Hello, hello, folks who are watching. Now let's actually add in yes, this one. Is that going to work? Well, that doesn't appear to be working. Okay. This is what I'm trying to capture. Thought I'd just quickly click it and add it in. Of course, that does not ever happen. Let's just not and say we did, eh? Okay. Turn that down for myself a little bit. Yeah, about there. Howdy, folks. I am JJanuary3D, or Jamie, and today we'll be modelling Lugia, as you may have guessed from the title of the stream / video, depending on when you watch it, and also the reference that I just had up. So I've loaded all of my reference into PureRef. I did find a website that was like a Pokemon Sete, or Seti, or Setai, like a library or a database it was trying to be. I think it was a Tumblr. And it had basically all of this in one page, so that was quite nice. It looks like Lugia's had quite a bit of reference material created for it. Not all of it is super useful. If we look over here, we've got a profile here, but it's quite small. We do have a nice profile of the whole creature here. Obviously there's other characters attached, but that's not a big deal. So we'll probably use this one in Blender. Got some nice profiles here, but they're all very much action poses, parts of an animation. It shows you sort of which flow of poses to follow. This is a more neutral sort of, almost like a gliding pose, I guess. Very flapping pose there. Sort of a cool action pose that you could aim for your final model, and a pose from the back as well. Some coloured versions of some of those as well, which is nice. And then there was this one which has, it's got all these extra lines all over it. At first I thought it was a different form, but it looks like it's just like construction lines and sort of showing you how to construct the Pokemon. I'm not 100% sure because I don't read Japanese, so. But it does have some of the Afro references included there as sort of a compilation. So I will have this off onto the side. So if you're watching and wondering how I'm able to see, I literally just tried to add a little capture window of what I'm looking at, but we'll just go without. So let's start with the cube. And we'll add in on the side, we'll add in a reference image. I will go to where I keep my stuff. And it was this one. So this is quite a good, and it's a fairly high resolution as well, image. So you can see fairly well what's going on. So we'll use this as a side profile. And then we will move on and just sort of, we'll draw out a profile very basically, and then go into sort of a 3D view, get an idea of how things are looking, make adjustments there, and then whilst making those adjustments we're sort of looking at the other images that are in the reference, like here. Gives you an idea that he's got quite a belly with some big chicken legs sticking off the side. This bottom one sort of gives you that as well. And then, yeah, there's not too many front references. This is a fairly good one, especially for the size of the wings. That's a good reference for that, but it's not good reference for too much else. The head's kind of front on, but not completely, so it's a bit not very useful for a front on look. But it gives you sort of an idea of the shape of the head from a front view. This one is fairly slim, whereas this one has got quite a wide jaw. So it does look like different references are going to be looking a little bit different. I'll probably aim to sort of keep it in line with the slimmer look, because that seems to be what most of the reference look like. I'm not even sure if this is a official reference, but when there's a whole bunch of them that are sort of lining up with each other, and then there's one that sticks out, I won't use the one that sticks out as my main reference. But I'll use it as a rough guide to sort of influence my decision making, I suppose. So we'll start on the side. We'll get the image, turn down the transparency. So about 0.3, 0.4 should be fine. And we will move it back in the X as well, just to get it out of the way. Then we can select the cube that is here, and I think we'll do a Control 1 just to get a little bit of geometry in there. And then we'll go to here and apply. And delete these vertices on the side. And add in a mirror modifier with clipping turned on. Lovely. Now, I'd love to be able to get the texturing done today. Not sure if we will, so we'll just keep that in mind. That we're aiming to at least have the model done. I usually stream for about 2 hours, so we'll see how that goes. So we'll sort of scale in, rotate, get an idea for where things are. You can see if you follow the line along the back here, you can sort of guess that it's going to be somewhere in the middle of all that. Probably not go too far. And extrude the scale, extrude, scale, S to scale, G to move, typical stuff. For the head, we will probably come up like this. Now, obviously, there's a big horn happening. It's tough to say how much of it is the front of the head turning into a horn. I think it's just going to be like this. And then if you select sort of these polygons here and extrude forwards, you can start to block out the shape of the head. Obviously not getting super close yet. Maybe add in an edge loop here. And allow there to be some sort of a cranium there. Probably scale these two apart. Oh. Okay. Now I want things to be nice and rounded, so I'll make sure the edge flow is sort of following that. And then we might go down the tail as well, and then we'll start looking around at the model in other views and get an idea as to how close things are getting. Right at the tip, scale that down. Maybe bring the end out a little bit. Add in some edge loops. And we probably want the curvature to be going the other way now. So we'll encourage that to look nice and rounded. Yeah. Something like that. Very rough shape. I think the back would probably come a bit less out. Okay. So now we'll go into 3D and oh no, it's a monster. That's okay. Now we'll go G and then X. Bring that in quite far there. I'll deselect those. And probably deselect those and the tail as well. G and X. Bring things in. Maybe deselect just along the tail. Just bring things in a bit more. So we're starting to get the body shape. Now he was quite a round-bellied guy, so we'll make sure to incorporate that. The tail should be nice and round as well, I think, and not, it's very square at the moment, so we might, let's focus on the tail for just a moment. G and X. See how I feel about that. Yeah, the tail is fairly thick, so I don't want to go too much thinner than that. We might actually bring the inside edge that's along here. Deselect that and deselect all of that. Bring this out in the X a little bit. So it's still getting rounded, not that much. The tip we'll probably bring in, like that. And then we can actually bring this in a bit more as well. Maybe we need to bring the... No, we'll bring these in.
Sorry.
You're right. Bring these in. Bring these up. And just encourage the sort of roundness of what's going on. Yeah, that's looking alright now. Make sure this end piece looks nice and round. Might bring these in on the X a bit. Maybe this one as well. Beautiful. So I want to round out the neck a bit more, I think. I might even select... My view's going a bit funny. Oh. Going on there. That's better. I might use my Loop Tools add-on and just do circle. And try to rotate that. Jeez, it's going to be tough. Whilst looking down, and then getting it to where the clipping is back and enabled. So that should be nice and round now. So if I double tap to edge slide that down, and then bring it back, scale it in. That should be nice and circular. Excuse me. We might do the same for this last bit here. So double tap G to edge slide down. Bring it back out. And then just scale it proportionately to what you're working on. And then we'll do a little bit more on the head. Which will be tricky at this point. Maybe bring in the front a bit. Like that. Maybe bring this out a little bit. So I think this head's going to be a very tricky portion of what we're working on. So we could just extrude out. I think that might be the play for now. And then we can rearrange it. We'll tear some edges and stuff. But this will allow us to have a fairly pointy mouth. It's very tricky with so few polygons to get anything looking good yet, so I'm not too worried about that. I just want to have the shape starting to get fairly close. The overall shape. So then when you extrude, say, this polygon back, move things into place, scale it down, rotate. Obviously it's a sort of a spiky thing, so we'll do that. Out there, and then bring this in like here. That should start to look like what we're aiming for. So we can, obviously the more detail that we do add in now will make things a bit closer, but I don't want to add in too much because then it will look not very good. Maybe something like that. Yeah. Okay. Let's go down and add a bit more detail just with some more loop cuts and get things a bit more flowing the way that they're intended to be. You can see this loop here has come up a bit further than it should. I'm just adding loops in between everything and shifting them around to make them look pretty close to the reference. And then all of these are actually quite tall compared to the reference after all that work we did. So just make sure that's roughly correct. No, I don't think we did that many. I think that's fine as it is. I might run a very quick and just maybe even just once, do a smooth, maybe twice, and then come back to wireframe and just with proportional modeling selected, just scale things back up a little bit where they need to be and just adjust things back to where they were. Oh. Wow, that requires the holding of shift. About there. That should, yeah, that's evened out where all the polygons are. We could probably honestly get away with much less than this, but I think I'll leave it like that for now. It gives us lots of spots to add on the arms and the legs. That's what I'm looking at. So I've got probably a couple of polygons here and then a couple of polygons here where I can attach those. Yeah, it'll be tricky to do otherwise. Now thankfully the wings are actually, like the feathers are quite square, so I'm not too worried about them. I think we'll try and get the head looking a bit better first. So I will do a V to tear there, and then I might even, no, it doesn't seem to want to flow like that. I think I will just fill in the polygon that is along here. Fill that in. Jeez, it's really hard to see. Turn off proportional. And then there should be another polygon attached to this one. And then I would probably merge these two. And that will allow, because the jaw is definitely, the top jaw is definitely bigger than the smaller, the bottom one. So it sort of overhangs. So if we bring this in a little, we can bring it back up, sort of just intersecting. And then we want to add in that detail along here. Make sure that's looking okay. Where there's like a tooth hanging down. We'll do that by selecting these polygons, extrude them, scale them, and that will sort of become part of the mouth anyway. And then we've got this polygon here, which we should be able to use to just extrude down. Okay. I'm going to line up these vertices with the ones that they should be behind. Just to make that a bit easier to see what's going on. I might move those behind there. And just maybe line those up a bit better. Like that should be almost back there as well. So we'll do that. Get it rough. Fairly close looking. This should be a bit further back anyway to get that to line up properly. Maybe bring that up a bit, scale it out, extrude and then scale, so that it does look like a tooth thing that's sticking out. Now obviously that's wrong. So we'll move that in on the X. And yeah, now as soon as I look in 3D, it's actually very skewed. Which is fine, we can fix it. This one, and then G and X, bring that out. G and X, bring that out. So that's starting to look right. I'll bring this out a little bit. Might just soften that a little bit by doing this. And then I'll add in a loop along the jaw here, the bottom jaw, and just bring it in. Bring in this vertex here as well, just along the X, and then find where that connects, bring this back out along the X. Now I use this to add a bit of extra definition to that. I'll edge slide a new thing up there, a new edge loop. Is this from Yu-Gi-Oh? No, this is a Pokemon. This is Lugia, one of the legendary Pokemon from the second generation, so Gold and Silver. He does have that sort of Yu-Gi-Oh vibe though. I get why you're asking that. And there we go. So we got that corner of the mouth happening. Now that we've added that extra geometry in, we need to make sure it's actually contributing to the shape of things. Now the eye is going to be tricky to get in, because it very clearly has its own thing coming off from around the eye, which is super cool. Yeah, I'm wondering if I could just flat texture the eye on, but that still probably wouldn't look very good. And how do his eyes look from different angles? They are, you know, out enough to be sort of binocular vision. Sort of looking here, so they're still a bit flat back against the head, but not totally, so a little bit forwards. So we're trying to, oh, no, we're over here. Yeah, just trying to get that to sort of match. I might even keep this zoomed in look at the head, just like that, just on my second screen. Make sure I can still see chat, and just sort of see, is the head currently, it's fairly close to that. I think the head should be a bit wider, maybe here. Maybe I won't select that one. Smooth things out a bit. This appears to come in off the head a little bit sharp, a bit like that, yeah. And then we've got a decent amount of roundedness to the head. I might bring this in and this in, and that gives us a sort of spot along here for where the eyes will be going. Being that we've got, if I do an edge cut here, that will actually be a perfect spot to have the corner of the eye. I think I will do that, and then I will maybe grab these polygons, extrude and scale a little bit. Don't want to use the whole side of the head. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll have the eye shape here. And I will add the cool thingy around the eye later as a separate mesh. I won't keep it all, I won't extrude it off because that looks like it would be a nightmare to do. Let's slide that out of the way a bit. Obviously that's completely wacko, so we'll bring everything in. Try and get these lines to be fairly vertical. And even select 2, press SX0, and that will get them perfectly vertical. So I'll do that along each of these. And then we know we want the corner of the eye to be able to see the front at least a little bit. So I'll bring that in. Probably bring this out a bit more on the X. Something like that. That looks like a fairly good eye to me. I am not super happy with what's going on here. So what I might do is delete that edge, add in 2 more. Oh, and just have to fill that. There we go. Because we do have a point that this sort of needs to come to, so a little bit of extra geometry to define that is nice. Wireframe, please. I might bring this down a bit, and then bring these up. And just try and get a fairly flat underside to that. That's alright. So now we've got a bit of extra stuff going on here, so we want to make sure that it's working. I think I want to bring a lot of this in. Now I have not done a practice model for this, so we're working it out together. So this version of the model might not be the best, it might not be the most accurate to the character, but it gives us a really good understanding of how to construct some of these forms. So we can come with a fresh mind, say later today or the next day. Try not to leave it too long between modelling sessions, but it gives you an idea of how to actually create the shapes that we need. Scale that down a bit, I think. So I think the eye is actually should be rotated this way a bit. Yeah, tiny bit more. That's cool. Now I might check. It's hard to do when you don't have it selected, so I will select it. I just want to check the geometry. If I go to the top view, I can see that like these vertices aren't all super lined up. So I'll just tidy that up a little bit. Hopefully that will make the eye look a bit better, make it pop. And then I might bring out the middle polygon just a tad, just to add a bit of roundedness to the eye. I'll extrude it out, scale in a little bit, and then extrude in, and then extrude back out. So now when we go to add a subsurface modifier, you can see that the eye is nice and well defined in all of that. and it still follows the reference fairly closely. I might want to adjust things, maybe add more geometry, maybe just use what we've got just to encourage the shape to be a bit closer. Yeah, that looks about right. And then this toothy situation looks a bit funky. I think it's more in this corner here. This side looks alright. Could be sharper, I guess. So it could be an edge loop maybe just in the middle. That looks alright. But then there's still some funky stuff going on here, which is absolutely because of this pole here. There's not a lot I can do to change that without changing a lot of the geometry first. I'll add in some extra geometry for the bottom of the jaw. I will need to edge slide this down. So we need to do a bit of tidying up here, but otherwise the shape of the head's looking alright. I could probably go for an edge loop in here, because we've got some really big spots there that are gaps. And then just a bit of a tidy up to the shape of the head. Try to keep it looking nice and smooth. So I've probably got 3 vertices here we could merge at center, and then merge here at center. Possibly even merge these two, although that's starting to create some weird stuff, so no. Do this. Yeah, that still looks roughly okay. Just pull these out a little bit to encourage a bit more roundedness to the head. Not going to add more up there because it's going to go through the eye and it will make things a bit trickier later on. But under here we'll round things out a bit more. Yeah, starting to take shape. We might add in the cool shape that's going around his eye. So we're going to edit mode. I might hide the subdivision and just add in let's just shift D a couple of edges or a couple of vertices, extrude out. That's basically a plane. And then I want it to start in the corner of this eye. And I'll sort of line it up with some of the edges that are already here. That should make it a bit easier to make it actually work. Now there's a bit more shape in it that's here, so we'll make sure we get that correct. And then we've got we'll extrude, not one vertex, we'll extrude this out to about there, and then we will extrude we'll extrude down to here. And and then extrude down to here. Get that shape in there. That should be okay, yeah. And then we got 3 vertices along here. Try and aim that one to be about in the middle. Extrude, scale. Extrude, scale. Extrude. Scale it right down. Maybe encourage the point a little bit by doing that. So now we've got a polygonal sort of thing that's there. It's not perfectly against the face yet, so we might try and get that. We'll do an SX0 and then GX. And even that's not going to work super well. Get it just before it goes in. So it sort of conforms around the eyes and then comes off and does its own thing. It's only around where the eyes are that it needs to be really flat and flush against the head. Other than that, it doesn't really need to be. So we can then start to make it look kind of cool. Excuse me. Let me just blow my nose from that. Wife just brought me a coffee as well. Lovely. Lovely jubbly. So we might bring these out a bit. And I don't want these to curl around the back of the head at all. We want them to stick out. Something like that. That's looking pretty cool. I'm quite enjoying that. This needs to come in quite a bit more though. Maybe this needs to come back this way. There we go. That's looking better. I might even bring this. Ooh. Bring it to about there and then extrude down that last little bit. And bring them out on the X and then bring them back in. Now this is if you were modeling, like if you had these as separate objects, you could do like shrink wrapping to get some of the vertices into place. Basically we're just doing that by hand. There's so few vertices that it's not a big deal. If there was obviously lots and lots of vertices, we would look into something like that. But sometimes it's, you know, good practice to do things by hand anyway. Once I'm happy with this shape, the silhouette, It's actually, now that we've added that in, it's starting to really look like Lugia, so that's quite good. Then we'll extrude. So extrude that out. We'll make it a little bit chunky. And we'll probably... okay, let's just show to describe what's going on. We'll shade smooth as well. The shape does change obviously when you subsurf and when there is less geometry involved. And now I can't just be clever with how I select things. So we'll just massage a few things into position. And I might even, at this point it's getting very difficult to see what's going on, so I will separate into a separate model. So even when I'm in wireframe, the only vertices I can possibly select are the ones that I want, that are part of this model, not part of the head. I just get it so that there's not too much of the eye showing. I mean, ideally there shouldn't be any, so maybe we should think about overlapping a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that's looking quite good. Spend a little bit of time getting the details looking good and it will pay itself for you. Now it is all looking quite apart, so I will add in an edge loop that is down near here. See how that affects things. It's a bit closer, but things do need to come in a bit on the X. Ooh. GX, and then I'll hold down Shift and I'll allow some intersections to happen here, I think, and that will just bring things even more into a line. And I will maybe select these, bring them in on the X, select these, bring them in on the X, bring that back out a bit. So yeah, there's not a big separation around the eye. There is still a little bit happening here, which I think just means we need some more geometry here. So let's do that. Even add in an extra. Maybe even like this. That would help to tighten things up a bit. Now the reference has it basically coming straight out from underneath, so I will... Being that it's a nice smooth rounded model, I'm not going to worry about it being too straight, but a nice curve like that looks pretty good. And I feel like, especially in the corner here, it should be thinner, and maybe even around the eye itself. The actual sort of thick mesh part that we've got. We need to bring these back out a bit. Yeah. That's looking quite good now. Quite happy with that. There's a bit of angular shape in there. There's also a bit of curviness that's new to the model. That's not really there in the reference. And I like adding, you know, this is what you call an artistic change, I guess, where you might make subtle details different. Just based on, hey, I made it like this and it looks quite good. If I wanted to, I could completely square this off, but I like the sort of rounded look. Adds a bit more character, I think. Now that neck is looking quite slim, and now that I look at the reference, it's actually, yes, it is quite slim. So we'll bring the tops and the bottom vertices up and down a bit. It's partly because of the subdivision stuff that's happening. That's a bit better. So then, probably we'll do the wings next. They look like they'll be the most complicated part. So we might do those next. We might also bring some of these vertices down maybe a bit. Just try and get that big round belly in. And maybe bring these out on the X as well. Maybe some of these as well. Just get a nice big round body going on. Now for the wings, I'm looking at this reference mostly. And I will also be looking at the side reference. I think we'll model using this side reference and then rotate them around so it's more of a T-pose. And then attach them. So we'll hide that. We'll hide that. We'll just add in a cube. Do a Control-1 and apply it. We don't need to worry about mirroring or anything yet, so we won't. Just looking at how we will actually. I might get rid of this back portion. So then we've got a really nice flat edge to work with there. Scale in on the Z. Or the X, sorry. Scale these on the X as well a little bit. The wings do have a very flat look to them, so we'll try and incorporate that. Honestly, probably because I just started off with a circle, but we'll see how this goes. Yeah, that sort of shape I think will be fine. And we'll extrude to where the form has a change. Extrude out to here. And now it does have the 5 fingers, so we want 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 4 edges, so we can work with that. Well, that's not going to be super easy with how things are now. So I'm going to bevel this edge. Oh. We've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they can all be polygons. Scale this in, scale this in, and then if we go F, there we go. We can sort of, I might arrange these polygons at where the fingers are sort of coming out. They're probably coming out in more of a curve. So something like that should be fine. Now that bevel did change what was going on with the rest of it. So I might extrude the first one. And just see how that looks. Now I want each finger to be in front of the next one, so I will incorporate that as well. feel like they would probably be thinner than this. Okay. So extrude. Nope. Rotate. Scale. And just align those two corners. And so this should probably be a bit further back. It's going to be tricky because we've got multiple fingers happening now. But roughly like that. We can add in a bit more detail in a moment. We'll just get the very rough shapes in. So the top corner of this one seems to be hidden, so we'll bring that back a bit. We might bring this back a bit. Just trying to guess where the edge of that one would be. And then go to perspective as well. Okay. And then grab this, extrude. Again, similar sort of shapes that we've been working with. Just adjust a little bit. This one we'll bring back. So we've got that layered look now. From the top, looking okay. We'll bring them all forwards a bit. I'll also add in, there is a thumb that sort of comes off here. So if we bring this up, bring this up, we slide things down a bit. I'll think about what I'm going to be doing. So I want to extrude out, oh, just the one, extrude out, obviously not there because that's the wrong spot, so this polygon, extrude that out and then extrude the thumb off of that, put that into place. Sort of looking roughly right, looks pretty good. Now here we will want to scale in, bring that in, just allow that to smooth in a little bit, scale this in a little bit, bring that in just a little bit, just allow that to sort of taper into there so it's not very noticeable. Shade smooth, and there's not really much to see at this point. So let's add an edge loop there, and an edge loop there, and an edge loop there. Beautiful. So that will allow us to curve the tips of these wings. Or the feathers, I suppose. Yeah, that's looking alright. So I'll add in another edge loop probably there. Another one here. And I'll probably put one along each feather as well, or wing piece. I don't know. I think there's such a close thing between this feather and it being a finger. It's sort of hard to tell. Again, they should be fairly square looking, so we can add a edge loop to the end of each one just to reinforce that. And then if we add a subsurface to that and shade smooth, that's looking pretty good. That's a squarish wing type thing. Now it looks like, I'm sort of looking at this reference here, it is all square and stuff in this area, but probably quite rounded where it connects to the body. So we'll get that in there as well. To do that, we've got a lot of stuff happening at the end here. That's a bit raggedy. We will just turn off subdivision for now. But it's not looking like things are quite where they should be. In fact, what I might do is I'm going to select all of this and I'm going to smooth things, and that will show us where the actual end is, kind of. Which I think if I delete this stuff, that gives us the end that we're actually working with. I should be able to reduce the amount, because that's a lot of vertices. So we need to, what's this one doing? So that's adding detail to the finger. So what we could even do is come back a bit and do just some reorganization, I guess, of some of these edges. So if I extrude this out and then create a polygon there, and a polygon there, we've reduced 3 into 1 on each of those. And that makes it significantly easier when it comes to actually attaching this together. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's much more usable than the extra 2, 4, 6, 8. So it would have been 18 vertices. Yeah, that's not very manageable when it comes to attaching things together. So now we'll bring this sort of further down. As I was saying before, we probably should be aiming for something a bit more circular. So I will turn this into a circle, rotate so it fits a bit better. I will scale a bit on the X and scale the whole thing up. Extrude out again, and then go through a circle again, and just flatten it just a little bit and scale it up so that it matches the reference. That I'm fairly happy with. We'll just make sure that the reference is actually being followed. It's not in all cases. Yeah, pretty happy with that. That would be a tricky one to rig, so I would probably, if I was planning to rig this model, with those fingers, I would possibly model them spread out sort of like that, and then with a thumb sticking out. Yeah, just to make it easier to rig. So sort of have the fingers, how they're slightly in front of each other, I'd exaggerate that quite a bit to allow for the bones and the rigging and stuff to happen. What happens if I do that? Cool. Just wanted to round out that last bit as well. but maybe bring it in. Oh. On the X a little bit. Beautiful. Okay. So now let's attach that. Rotate it on the Z by -90. Bring it out here. And then bring back the character model and attach that together. So it should be connecting in around there. We'll select the wing and then the body, and then Control J to join. So we need to have a 10 vertice hole. So if I take out 2 vertices now, that will give us what we need. So say I take out these 2 and delete them. That will give us a gap that we need. Now we need to obviously fix up this gap before we attach anything to it. We could even do the Loop Tools circle trick. Bring that in. Just give us a fairly good spot with which to attach. Alt H to unhide. Bring that up a bit. That's actually looking pretty good. What I might do is I'll remove that last ring there and then bridge these 2. So if I go F3 bridge, hopefully this works nicely. That has worked perfectly. Lovely. So we need to do a right click in object mode, do shade smooth, and then do a Shift N to recalculate the normals. And we've got the wings attached. Perfect. Now it's very much a T-pose sort of situation here, but that's really good. I'm very happy with that connection and the look of the area that it connects to. I would probably prefer to not have this happening. So that would require a bit of reworking, possibly having added an edge loop in beforehand, but that would require working on the face. That's why I didn't do that. But for this purpose, it's looking quite good. So I think we'll add in the turkey legs next. We'll try and find some polygons that match sort of where it's connecting, which is sort of these. I could possibly, yeah, I think if I edge slide these up, those are going to need to come up a bit. And then maybe even edge slide these back and then add in an edge loop. And then we'd probably delete this vertice. Although we wouldn't, because we want more of a shoulder joint here. Just trying to think of, we probably extrude out a decent amount, and then rotate this about 45, scale it in a bit, and sort of try and rework the geometry around to sort of match this. Oh. Just to tidy it up a bit. That's a really good question, Quena. I don't have a particular idea in mind. I might put a nice render together. Have them all. Maybe chuck on like some basic rigs and have them do a little pose. Turn my clipping back on, please. Do like a fun sort of photo shoot sort of thing. I started a TikTok a couple of weeks ago and posted a couple of videos on there of me sort of messing around with a couple of the Pokemon models. So maybe check that out. But that's... I'm not like committing to TikTok or anything like that. But it's fun to sort of... It's a nice place to post little short videos that I've just sort of done something silly with. So I was testing the molecular add-on, and I decided to use the Pikachu model with that molecular add-on, which turns your particles into rigid bodies, and then I could have a bunch of models that were colliding with each other that you can generate quite easily. And you can use particle behaviors to like generate everything. It's quite fun using that add-on actually. But yeah, the main purpose for my current bout of modelling has been just to get me doing it again. And doing it regularly rather than just every now and then. Because I've been like, oh yeah, I want to make tutorials, but then I'm out of practice on just the actual modelling side of things. So by spending a couple of hours each week with a goal in mind, the focus of that has actually been really helpful. And I'm actually preparing some models off stream to have just regular video tutorials on, so I'm looking forward to getting those published. So I might try and line these up. Try and get it to a position that's working. Around about there. Little chicken legs. The legs are obviously more circle than not, so we'll aim for that. It's actually already coming out quite far, so we'll bring those in a little bit. Okay. Now we'll add in a loop here. Scale that up quite a bit. Might make where it joins a bit wider. So it actually looks a bit closer to the reference. Okay. And yeah, Pokemon is a subject that I enjoy and always have since I was a kid, and it's something that I can share with my kids these days now as well. So it's a fun subject matter that sort of has spanned generations, for me at least. So it's still something that I enjoy working with, I suppose. Cool. Okay, so let's continue extruding. Thanks, Liz. That's my wife. She's being supportive.
Yes, I am support.
So we've got a foot that's sort of sticking out here. We'll sort of aim for the length and then do a loop there. Get a heel in. Okay. So the feet have 3 toes, because of course they do. Why wouldn't they? If I do, yeah, I know how I can do that. If I do a loop cut here, scale out on the X, then I got 1, 2, 3 spots to make toes come out of. Now the toes come from further up, so we'll sort of organise that. It's fairly tricky to see the correct shape of this foot, so I'm just sort of guessing. It's quite thin in the back and comes out to a wider toe, so we'll do that. I think for retopology, a way to practice that, so there are repositories online of 3D scans of like the one I was working with, because someone had a tutorial on hair, I think it was just like the head of is it Michelangelo's David? I think it was Michelangelo or some other guy. Leonardo da Vinci, his David. Was it Da Vinci that sculpted David? No? Michelangelo? Yeah? I was right the first time? Questioning myself.
You want to know how I remember? Because I literally remember the name of that statue as Michelangelo's David.
Yeah, that's how I started.
Leonardo da Vinci did paintings, hello?
Yeah, he sculpted as well.
And weird flying machines, but we're not going to talk about it.
Anyway,
Dude, fly, like, all the time.
I was working with that model, and I realised how dense the polygons are, that I could decimate by a significant factor and lose absolutely no detail. So I thought that would be a fun subject to spend some time retopologizing, because A, you get a piece of, world-renowned art out of it that is much better optimized than the one that's provided online, and also it would be some really good practice, because it's not mirrored. It's not perfectly along a center line or anything like that, so you have to do the whole thing basically, and yeah, I think that would be really fun practice. I think the hair would be very tricky because it's quite detailed, but I mean, that's where that comes in. You'd probably, I would spend some time messing around with like the remesh stuff and see how good I can get it from that, and then maybe retopologize to quads, and then you could add a rig and make David talk. That would be fun and silly. dolphin's not a subject I've tried before. So good luck with that. It's a fairly smooth model, similar to like Lugia, how there's no sort of rippling detail along it. There's certain details that should be there, and I mean, being a dolphin, it is very recognisable, whether or not you've achieved the look of a dolphin, because it's something that everybody's quite familiar with. So yeah, I'm just bringing in everything to be slightly sleeker, and then we'll try and extrude out some toes, see how that goes. I might extrude out like the middle one, and then I'll rotate that forwards so that it's more in line. Bring these forwards. Yeah, I'll extrude out the middle one and then duplicate for the other two. Let's have a look. So this should come back a bit further. Looks good. Select those two polygons. Extrude. Ooh. So that's the length that we're looking for, at least. They're very not pointy like that, so we'll scale in the X. We'll add a bit more geometry. They should be fairly rounded from the looks of things, especially on top. They should definitely get thicker. Ooh, it's just no good angle. Thicker towards the top and slightly skinnier towards the bottom. The toes themselves probably should have a little bit of a curve. So add that, and then select all of this, deselect there, rotate a bit, deselect, rotate, deselect, rotate. Beautiful. Yeah, you can really bring down that poly count with the remeshing tools, which is nice. And the retopologizing. Are you using shrink wrap? And probably, it's been so long since I've actually retopologized anything. I'd use snapping and shrink wrap to do it. That's how I used to do it. Might be a bit too thick. We'll scale on the X just a little bit. Yeah, about there. So I will shift D and then rotate and scale down a little bit, I guess. The outside toe. And then shift D, rotate the other way. Retop overlay, yeah, I've heard of that. I've not used it, but I hear it's good. So I'm going to select some of these, bring them in a little bit. Cool. Now I'll select these two edges and erase, and then I can select these two rings, hopefully. Yep. Make sure that's not selected, and then F3 and bridge, because I've already got that searched, and do the same on this side. Oh. Just make sure there's nothing else selected. F3 and bridge. Beautiful. That's the legs. That looks quite good. They should probably be a little bit thinner at the toes. So they do, oh, if I can select it, they do sort of, this is quite wide compared to this. So I might just try and fix that up. I think the way to do it would be to select that and that. Or that one and that one. Press O. And scale them together. Make the area of influence fairly small. And just bring that in a little bit. There we go. It's Lugia! Big chicken legs. Nice. So I just need to add in, I need to fix this little area here because that's quite lumpy. Ah, that's why. Probably just do this, honestly, to fix that. That's way better already. Bring that out a little bit. Bring that out a little bit. Maybe bring these up and in a little bit. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Now that's not much of a resting pose, I have just realised with the legs, but I mean I modelled them to match that reference. They could probably be a bit chunkier. Now this foot is clearly rotated, so I'm not worried about the thickness of this not matching that. I do want an extra, well, that's look, not without reorganizing where the flow is going, but I would want some more polygons in here, I think. Yeah, I'm just not getting quite enough control over the leg as much as I want. So that might be something to keep in mind for doing a second revision of this model, would be to make sure there's more polygons in the circle before we extrude out. But I'm pretty happy with this at this point. I mean, I could sit here and fuss over details for hours on end. I think we'll add in the little extra details that are around, and then see how we're doing for time. I think the tummy does need to come out a bit more. Yeah. Yeah. Really happy actually. Especially because I didn't, on purpose, I didn't do any practice modelling. So let's have a look. So on each tail we've got a shape on each side of the tail. And then along the back, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These little doohickeys on each side. So we'll get those in. Just look, I think. Let's try. Selecting these, And I'll just sort of aim down there. Rotate a little bit. Nope. Why don't I select this ring, Shift S, cursor to selected, change the transform pivot point to 3D cursor, and then rotate like this. That's better. So get a bit of rotation up the first row, and then lower that down and just bring it out a bit more like that, and just to make it look like a pose that's sort of something I could put into something rather than just a T-pose. Yeah, so we'll get those doohickeys. I don't know. I think they're supposed to be like bone-like protrusions, but they're also, it's a cartoon, so I don't think it's quite that. Let's add in a cube and scale it down. And I might just hide the Lugia for a moment. We'll change this back to bounding box center. And I don't want these to be particularly thick. So something like that, maybe a bit thicker, something like that. And then we'll just shape this to match this guy. And then we'll just duplicate. We could, I think I will, in all of the artwork, they're all definitely differently sized and shaped a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. I think they're slightly curved as well, the way that they curve out like that. So that's something to bear in mind. And then I'll do this for the part that's clearly inside. We'll add a loop down the middle to get that curvature a bit nicer. And maybe just a little bit extra geometry. Okay. So to get that curve, we will bring along the X. Oop. Then Control minus GX minus GX minus GX minus G. Oh. Ooh. GX, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'll add an edge loop along the middle, and then let's just add a subsurf. See how that looks. Not perfect. So instead, yeah, I could do some of the human characters as well. That's an idea that I hadn't thought of before, actually. Could do. I've got Psyduck as well, so I could do Misty. One of the kids was asking me to do. What was his name? Onyx. So I could do Onyx and a Brock as well. That would be fun to do. I just want to get rid of this. Or why don't I edge slide that to the edge there, and then edge slide that, and then a bit closer. I think I want to reinforce this edge as well. Yeah, beautiful. And now you don't even need the shade smooth almost, but we'll add it. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we've got one of those, and we'll add the rest along the back of Lugia. So let's bring Lugia back. And position this in a way that makes more sense. Definitely needs to be sort of like that. First one is about there. Now they do come out a fair bit as well, and sort of seem to be more rotated like this. Yeah, about like that. So 1, 2, 3. They do go beyond the leg. 4, 5. We'll start getting them into position. So, I mean, this reference has them coming up the tail. Probably won't bring them quite that far up, actually, based on other references that I'm actually seeing now. They sort of come, and then that one does. So, as I've discussed before, different references will contradict each other as to where the placement of these thingos go, or the placement of anything might go. So just use your best judgment. Make it look good. I will evenly space them out, something like that. And then I will bring them in along the X. Yeah, they're closer towards the middle at the top. They come out a bit. No worries, Akarina, thank you for coming and joining and chatting. It's been nice to talk to you. And I will just sort of change the depth a little bit on these, I think. Something like that. So that's starting to look about right. And then we'll even go into edit mode on some of these. Press O, scale that up, and just choose a couple of different vertices. And just change the shapes on them a bit. That makes them all look a bit more unique. Now I think I want them to be more, so this isn't in line with the curve that they're following, so I want to fix that. So tricky, not so easy thing to accomplish. Oh, okay, select all of these. Object, set origin to geometry. There we go. Okay, that will make things a little easier. When I do something like that, yes, that's better. Lovely. So now I will want to probably not have them all pointing so far back. To the last one that can point back a bit more. I'm just adjusting the fiddling with them now, I guess is what I'm doing. So I'll select all of these, and then I think the Lugia model last. Control J to join. There we go. Gets mirrored in. Looks beautiful. We might do join these as well. And then last thing that we need to do, that we need to tackle, is the little pointy bits on the tail. And then that's Lugia. Yeah, the model will be quite time consuming to unwrap. I'm not sure about the texturing. There's not too much detail. The tummy is a bit detailed, and then it's all fairly uniformly coloured. And all the different pieces are different colours. Maybe we could get a quick texture thrown on there. Yeah, we're not quite at 2 hours, so let's aim to do at least a basic texture and see how it looks. So we need a couple of doohickeys on the tail. So similar to before, we'll add in cube. We might even add in a plane this time, just make it a bit easier. Work in 2 dimensions rather than 1. Blue. I think I turned off my numlock. Yeah, I did. Okay. So just in edit mode, we'll sort of try and line up with one of these from the reference. Now, in some images they look almost like spikes, but then in this sort of image they look fairly flat, similar to the things that are coming off the rest of the body. So I'll make them, I think, in general they look fairly flat. So we'll make them a more flat shape. We'll just Control R, add in some loop cuts, get the shape down. Once I'm happy with that, select it, extrude it out, and then add in, so I'll add in 2 edge loops. And because we've just got a flat model like this, I can just scale up in X to actually slide those closer to those ends. And then we've got a ready to be subdivided model that will fairly closely match the reference. Although, actually, no, I think I will, now that I've done that, I will get rid of these edge loops that I've just added in. And let's see. So that's it, quite rounded. If I add in 1 in the middle, yeah, that's much closer to what I was thinking. So we'll add this in. So it should be on the tail, sticking out. So I'll put the where have we got the so I want to Shift S, cursor to selected, and then set that to 3D cursor, and then in the front I can just rotate that, and it should be fairly close. Yeah. Control J to get it to mirror, and I am very happy with that. Yeah, very happy with how that's come out. I thought I had 2 thoughts. Either it's going to be too hard or it's going to be really easy, and it was right in the middle. A decent challenge to get the components looking right. I feel like the wings could probably be thicker in this direction. Even though they do match the reference here, I feel like that's tilted back. So I might... It's going to be tricky to do from an angle, but... see what I can do. I think if I select these, press O, and set bounding box center, can beef up these wings a little bit. It's not the most traditional way of modeling, but it will get the job done. Yeah. Just felt like they should have a bit more presence to them rather than being dinky little things. They actually look like they could hold them up now. Hey dude, quite happy with that. Now I haven't fixed what's going on in the corner of the mouth here. That will take a lot of work, I think. Like we could try and add in a bit of geometry. Ooh. and sort of tidy things up, but it's not going to be easy. I think what I need is to set up an edge loop that's going around the mouth. Even though I was thinking of not doing that, I think that's what it needs. And it's quite a mess in there at the moment, so like something like that. Ooh. No, something's going on with my blender right now. Not getting an edge slide after the loop cut. I think it might be a lag thing. Probably just got too many polygons. I keep adding stuff. Yeah, I think if I turned off this and then tried to do it, yeah, that lag's gone. So there is somewhere on the model that is causing a bit of lag. Not sure where it is though. I'm not going to worry about it. Let's get a quick unwrap done and see if we can get a nice looking texture on there. So for the whole thing, I mean, centerline is obvious. Seam. I might even add to favorites and add to favorites. Yeah, there we go. Mark seam, clear seam. We'll have the neck there. We'll have the inside of the eye. Mark that as a seam. And I might even... No, let's not. It's going to get too tricky. So let's try and find some edges. So these, yeah. We'll mark that for the leg. And then mark this one for where the foot is. And then grab a couple of edges along here. Mark those so we can unwrap the leg. The center line is actually going to be perfect for the feet. So that's good. Where the wing connects. And then probably we don't have a center line, do we? So let's go with this. Oh, that one there. And then these. So there. So this is the one of those tricky parts that I was almost hoping to avoid. But let's just do it. And then it's done. And then we don't have to worry about it anymore. Need to get this edge in here. Now, this one. And then that will divide the whole wing in two. Mark seam. And lastly, we need to add in this. Oh, not that one. This. Mark that as a seam. And we'll do sort of the back edge of this. Not that one. This one. Mark seam. Beautiful. Okay. Now, I haven't done any of the sort of additional models. We'll see how they look. We might have to go in. Hey there, Goofy King. How you going? Just getting ready to unwrap Lugia. Okay. So let's open a vertical split Open a UV editor. Select all. So that's what it currently looks like by default, based on just modeling stuff. We do an unwrap. Now, a few things have not cooperated, shall we say. So, let's see. Oh, L. So this big square thing is just that tail doohickey. So we can scale that down and move that out to the side. It's going to be one colour. And then I think these are all going to be the extra doohickeys that are down there. So scale those down. I do wish... Oh, we'll turn that off. If I move all of these out... So that seems to be attached to... No, it's not. Okay. Beautiful. So I just want to get everything out, and then I can select all of this, scale it all down together, and then it's all just the same. That's close enough. So these are all just going to be excuse me, solid colours, so I'm not worried about getting them to look nice. I'm wondering... No, I'm not seeing it. So let's re-engage with that. Let's select this piece and then move it. Oh, what's this? Okay. So this piece is not unwrapped at all. So we're going to need to set at least a seam, probably just along here. Along here. And then these two. So just along that edge, basically. Make sure it's continuous all the way around. Beautiful. Okay. So we can mark that as a seam. Select that U to unwrap it. And then we've got something that is in the correct shape and is actually unwrapped and not being weird. So that's good. Okay. So we can select these as well, because they're going to be that same blue. And have all the blue stuff in the corner over here. I might just move that one out of the way. Make them a little bit bigger. And then see how we're going with the rest of it. I might, because we're going to need a decent amount of... Now, why hasn't it separated? Ah, okay. Okay, let's mark seam there. We're going to need to unwrap a lot of this again. I should probably separate the tail at some point as well. So we'll do that. And maybe along the center of the tail, mark seam. I might even at the bottom of the neck here, mark, oh, not crease, mark a seam, and that will allow for things to be a bit more, not having a whole thing like this basically. So we'll go, you unwrap, and then now we've got multiple pieces like that, which is perfect. So we've got the head here. Which doesn't need any detail, really, so I won't worry about it. The wings are big, again, needing no detail, so make that small. I'll try to have similar pieces together. So this is the belly, where there is actually some detail. So we will try and make that maybe a bit bigger. Have that over there. The foot doesn't really have any detail. Not sure what that is. I think that's like the extra, like the thumb on the wing. Not sure what this piece is. This is definitely the tail. And we've got the neck here. Another piece of the body, I think. And then we've got the actual foot there. Looks like we have the eye pieces. Let's see what's going on here. So we've got this. Yeah, that's overlapping. Okay. So let's rotate that like this. Get that right up in the corner. Just make the best use of the UV space that we can. Beautiful. Maybe put these over here somewhere. If it is bothering, we can select this and that is the upper leg. Okay. So not requiring much detail. The foot over here as well. It's my wife in the background losing her mind. Something's funny.
Totally was doing a stream on John Benet Ramsey, and I just told her about the theory that John Benet Ramsey didn't actually die.
Oh my.
And that she grew up to be Katy Perry. And Totally is like, I don't believe you. And what I'm laughing at right now is the fact that she just Googled it. And she's like, oh, you weren't lying.
People are crazy.
She's a little bit confused now.
Okay, so the two main pieces that are going to have detail. We've got the eye, we've got the body. So those are the only two parts that are going to actually have any other detail work than just flat colours. So we'll get the rest of these painted first, and then we'll go in for that detail work. So let's add in an image. We'll go new. We'll go 2048 by 2048. We'll call it Lugia Diffuse. And we want it blank. We don't want to generate anything on there. Color, we'll do white, and then OK. So now we can see that. So we want to go to here. So we've got textured view. On the actual model itself, we will need to actually set the base color. Oh, what's going on? Come on, left click to just make it decide. So we've got base color, go image texture, and then choose Lugia Diffuse that we just created. So now he's all white, which he already kind of was, but it's all good. I'm going to turn down the specular, turn up the roughness, because he's not a particularly wet or slick looking character. And then we want to go to I think we just want to be in the modes here. So texture paint mode, so we can possibly paint on here. Paint some blue. Yep, so blue is showing up. Now is there... Okay, something weird is going on. Yeah, there's overlapping pieces that... Okay, that's fine. And then... So if we go to UV editor... Image editor? No, UV editor. Oh, and then obviously with the model, we hit this button. And then we go to image editor. and it's all showing up. Now we've got this stuff which is overlapping, so we do need to fix the UVs first. So go back to UV editor and go back to object mode. Make sure everything is selected, and then because I didn't have all these selected when I was working on it before, I might just select this one, move it out of the way, select all this, scale it down, move it up there, and then bring that back up. We might be able to rotate a bit to make a bit of space, and then we'll select all of this. Oh, we can bring it back over. So that's why things were acting a bit weird just now. So we'll turn this button back on and go to image editor. And then here we go to texture paint, and then the UVs do show up. So to get the correct colors, what we can do is actually go to object mode, add in a image, we'll just add in a reference, and I'll pick this one. I like the colors in this one. He's generally white, his body, so it's a little bit weird, but I think he's sort of supposed to be more of an off-white than a white. It's tricky. We'll experiment a bit, but he's like, clearly this white is not the same as this white, so, you know, I think it's more of a blue white than a white. So let's go to texture paint. We can probably enable the subdivisions surface, and that will be fine. And yeah, there we go, that's updated. So we can start, we press N, go to tool, we can go to the, open up a color palette, make a new one, and then go to a color here, get the color of the eyedropper, and we will eyedrop that dark blue, and then we can over here, because the tool is in image editor. Yep. We want to be painting. Here we go. So this blue is the same. We can actually add it to the palette, and then over here we should have the same things happening. Let's have a look. There we go. Color palette showing up. So yeah, we've got that same color selected. And then we can start painting on the image where we want certain colors to be. So I know I want all of this to be that blue. That should be fine. Beautiful. So we've got those blue details in, and it's already starting to look like Lugia, so that's good. Next we want, so we might try, because we've got the flood fill tool here, picking an ever so slightly blue colour. Let's go to RGB. So we turn down G and R a little bit, should get a slightly blue colour, which is kind of right. Let's go about there. So I've just gone slightly into the blue, and that's looking good to me. Try looking in rendered view. Maybe the blue's a bit too much. It's really difficult to. So we want a bit more green than red. So we'll do that, and then flood fill. That's better. So it's not white, but it's also not blue. So it's just a very pale, very baby blue sort of colour. And that's made him actually look pretty much like Lugia now. We just need to do the tummy. So we can just do that. We'll pick the colour off here. I will actually add that to my palette, the one that we've got there. And then we'll pick this colour. And then he's got a funky design. So that will be tricky to accomplish, especially just by doing this sort of stuff. We'll go back to texture mode. So sort of from around where the wings connect, there's sort of a V shape. We'll change the stroke, where are we? Fall off to, I almost want it to be square. We'll try sphere, see how that looks. Yeah, that's, so we've got a little bit of softness along the edge, but not too much. Feels almost like paint at that point. So we can sort of try and get that shape. It's about right. Maybe a bit lower. Or even a bit higher. Yeah, about here. Now I believe the music that I have playing has just stopped. There we go. Just some nice groovy background music for you all. And then we can try and, so it sort of comes in with the legs, something like this. Not worried about being messy on the texture. That was close actually. Yeah. Bit like that. Maybe this bit needs to be further out. Maybe just the higher up portion. So we colour this in. Yeah, we do want it to be higher up. Maybe not quite as extreme an angle. We'll add that to the palette. Pick that one. Just tidy it up. Along there. Pick that color again. Tidy this up. For a quick and dirty texturing job, it's looking fine. I might just try and knock a little bit of a lump sticking out here on the texture, so I'm just going to try and knock that off. There we go. Yeah, that's a bit better. And then I'll try and square this up a bit as well. Just trying to graze with the edge of the brush. There we go. That's a bit better. And then paint where we've actually gone over other UVs. Make sure that's all good. Make sure this is fine as well. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Cool. Okay, so let's get the eye done. Now, one of the references I picked up was actually really good for the eye. Let's see if I can figure out which one it is. This one, okay. So if I go to object mode, I'm gonna hide that for now. Actually, I'm just noticing the blue that's on the chest should be lighter than what's back here, and it's looking very similar. So let's just fix that before we go any further. So we'll lighten that. We'll use the fill tool. That's a bit too dark, too light. So a little bit darker. And now we're just getting like a grey. So this one. Thank you. Okay, so we'll come back to blue. I just want to go a bit lighter. A little bit lighter. Maybe a little bit over here. 2 green, 2 green. Once again, a little bit lighter. I am not getting similar color vibes. Let's try. Did I color pick? I'm sure I would have. So that's the color that's apparently on the image, but that feels not very saturated. Yeah, about there. That looks okay to me. That's going to have a funny little bit of an outline, but it's not too bad, so I'm not going to worry about that. We could blur it or repaint over or, you know, whatever. Not going to worry about any of that. So in object mode, okay, so we'll select that, hide that one, add in a new reference image, and this one here has a really good reference for the eye. Almost one that you could just copy and like put it onto the texture. Not going to do that, but you could. So let's go to select Lugia. I'll actually zoom in on the eye there, and we've got the. We'll move that up there, so we've got a fairly good look at what it should be looking like. And then we'll go back to make sure we've got Lugia selected. Okay, texture paint. So we're looking for like a deep red at the bottom, a black with a little white highlight. So let's just start with, I think we'll start with the red, and then we'll try and get the rest of the colours on top of that. Now, it being an eye, I think it should be white, so we'll actually paint the whole thing white first. Cool. Make the brush a bit bigger. So that eye is standing out a bit now. I might increase the strength. That just to get that looking. There we go. And then we will we'll just add that and then color pick that red. We'll see how it looks. Is that close? No, I think we want to be a little brighter, a little redder. It's really hard to see the size of the brush. Just trying to color batch now. Yeah. Is it that sort of colour? Not really. It's more that it's just a dark red, but I want it to be a bit more saturated. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. About there is, I think, the colour that we're looking for. I'm going to add that to the palette, come back to the white and just tidy that up. And then we'll go with the old. So we want the red. There's not a lot of area that is covered by the eye. Where we can do my own imagination. Should the eye be bigger? Maybe. That looks about the right size for the eye anyway. So let's go with that. We'll add a black outline. Steady hands. Ooh, close. Look, that's pretty close. Actually not finding where the bottom of the eye that is showing is. So is it Yep, it's about halfway up there, so we'll keep bringing this up so it starts to show. So that little outline will actually help the eye to show anyway. So, ooh. See, curves in one direction are not so bad, but the opposite direction, suddenly your hand just sort of stops functioning. Okay. Tidy that up a little in the corner here. Cool. And then we want we actually don't want the sphere anymore. We want possibly sharp, because it's quite a big fade. And then we want black. Add that to my palette just to make it easier. And then if I'm painting along here, we get that nice big gradient. Which is what we're aiming for. I can tidy that up with white later on. We're starting to get a good looking eye shape now, so yeah, I like that. Quite sinister looking. We'll grab a white and then we'll go back to sphere and change the brush size up here and just tidy up around the edges where we've basically smudged some grey over the eye. It's not super noticeable, but I can tell. Yep. Just tidy it up. You don't realise how much is there until you start tidying it up. Beautiful. Okay. That will do. There's a smudge on my screen. I'm trying to fix. Beautiful. And then we want a nice white highlight in the top corner. And keeping it within the bounds of the outline. Might break this brush a bit smaller. But that, ladies and gentlemen, I think is going to be it. Yeah. That's Lugia. How's it going? What are we looking at? We've been going for nearly 2.5 hours. Okay, so not too bad. Pretty good for having a complete model. Might not be a rigged model, but it's modelled and textured. He's ready to go into a render now. He's obviously not ready to open his mouth or do anything interesting like that, but that's fine. We've got a fairly decent looking Lugia. He's definitely recognisable. We can chuck on, say, some simple rendering settings. So I'll set up a HDR that I've just got lying around on the old, if we go here and then go up. I think I was actually in this folder. There we go. Then we can go to rendered view, go to the rendering settings, go film, transparent. Now this is a very yellow world texture, well not world texture, but environment texture. That gives some nice lighting. We'll go to switch over to cycles. Make sure I'm on GPU to speed that up. And then we've got, maybe turn that up to 64 in the viewport. That's looking a bit nice. Turn on some automatic viewport denoising, and we've got a pretty nice looking Lugia. I'm very happy with that. Just take the time to look around at him. Yeah, it definitely looks better from the side that's lit. I don't think I can change the rotation. I can change the strength. Ooh, that's way too big. Maybe about 1.5. Yeah. But that's, yeah, I'm really happy with the results there. So we will leave it there for today. Thanks for tuning in if you have. Appreciate everyone that is tuning in, whether it's on the stream or on the VOD. As I've discussed a couple of times previously, the streams won't be continuing forever. I will be moving to a posting at least one video a week sort of model, and but yeah, I'm streaming currently to get back into the process of content creation and modeling, and getting making sure my skills are up to par, making sure I can sort of getting the practice in of talking whilst I'm modeling, not saying too many ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff. And once we're there, which will be, as he says with an will be in a few more weeks, I think. And I will, I think I'm aiming to start with a redoing of the Velociraptor modelling series, and also going into texturing and rigging. Now that's just, I've currently got a probably 75% done model, and I just want to finish that up, get it textured and rigged, and have the process of each of those steps done. I need to go through it a few times, because then once I've got those processes down, I'll be able to teach them in a way that makes sense and is clear and concise, rather than a sort of a rambling figuring it out as I'm going along. I don't like that kind of tutorial. This is obviously the stream version of sort of a rambling, carrying on, figuring it out as I go along. Some people do, I think some people do appreciate that, because it's like with the Lugia model, I didn't prepare at all. I didn't know I was going to be modelling Lugia until just before the stream, when I was just going through the Pokedex, and I thought, you know, Lugia, that's an interesting Pokemon, I might try and make that. And then I quickly gathered a reference, and then hit stream, and I'm very happy with my results today. Yeah, very happy. Cool. So if you're still watching, hit subscribe to keep up to date. If you can like the video, that helps push me up in the whole algorithm kind of thing. Yeah, and subscribe for more content getting pushed into your feed. I think you have to ring a bell or something these days. YouTube has changed. And yeah, I'd really do appreciate anyone that is, even if you're just watching and enjoying the content, I appreciate your patronage. Speaking of, I do have a Patreon. Now, there's not much on there yet, but the idea is to have an easy access to all the files for all the tutorials that I'll be doing, including all the Pokemon that we've streamed. So I've done like a test post of the Pikachu, and that seems to have solved several problems that I was having. So I'll have a more of a bigger launch of that once I've got some more content on there, I think. I don't like having something like that with no content on it. So once I've got that going, I'll make a bit more of a spruik about it, but that is in the background, so keep an eye out. And yeah, thanks again, and I will see you